In this video, sorry about the cold, we are going to examine what happens when you turn editing on in Moodle, and then also how you utilize the editing tools that you see on a course page when you turn editing on. First of all, there's two ways for you to turn editing on your home page. One way would be in the upper right hand corner, you have a button that you can click on. And then in your administration block, you should also have the option to turn on editing. So those two things do exactly the same thing. I tend to be in the habit of going up here, so I'm going to do that. Notice when you do turn editing on, things look different on the page because you see little tools that appear, and you also are presented with the turn editing off button. So let's take a look at some of these tools. It's slightly different depending upon whether you are looking at the blocks in the left and the right hand corner, or if you are looking at the resources that are in your topic blocks, which are in the center column. So let's start by looking at the left and right hand column. When you see this little icon here, so I'm on this Hopkins Public Schools block, and it looks like a crosshair. That is the move tool. So if I hover over that, seeing that my cursor will change, then I will click, hold down, and then if you drag, you almost see like I'm dragging down that it changes position. So if you drop or let go of your click, when you see that shadow kind of pass through the other block, that will move that block. So if you want to move the blocks around, here's another example. I'll move this one to the right. So if I drag it all the way across to where Infinite Campus is here, and you kind of wait to see that the shadow appears, and you drop it when it's in that position where you want it. Generally speaking, I only move those blocks on the right and the left-hand side, one block at a time, up, down, or over. All right, in those blocks, you'll also see a little gear, and that is called the action button. If I click on the action button when I'm on a block on the right-hand side or the left-hand side, I have some options. One of them is to delete the block altogether. Another one is to hide it, and hiding means that your users won't see the block, but you as the teacher still will. And then finally, you have the configure. So if you hit the configure option, that's where you can go in and do some editing of the content of that block. We're going to devote a whole tutorial to editing these custom blocks, such as this one. So I am going to actually use my breadcrumbs to go back to my home page, and we're not going to look at that any further. All right, let's look at the topic blocks in the center section. Every resource, no matter whether it's a digital assignment or if it's a posted file or if it is a link to a web page, all of them have the same tools. So let's look at one. So I'm going to start here. This one you should recognize because when I click on or hover over it, it's the crosshair, so that's the move option. You can move resources in Moodle with the drag and the drop. So if I click on this knowledge need journal and change paper, I can drag it and drop it, and it will move down under the weekly reflection. I'm going to move that back up because Jane probably doesn't want me to do that. You also have a little pencil right here. That's your quick tool if you're going to change the title of your resource. So you can see that I click on that, I get right into editing mode. I could change the text of that, and I press enter on my keyboard when I'm done. Then you have an edit pull-down menu, and this is where you can go to delete that resource. Sometimes you might, I'm purposely skipping the assign roles, you won't use that very much. You have the duplicate option, so if you're going to post two things that are similar, you can duplicate it and just make edits to the copy of it. You can hide from your users, you can indent it, or if you want to get into the properties for whatever that type resource type is, and that varies from one resource to the next, you can say edit settings. So for example, if I edit settings here, I can edit the assignment name, the description of the assignment, the date it's due, and all kinds of other things that you don't need to understand right now because we'll look at the assignment module in isolation later. And then if I wanted to save and display or return to my home page, I could click on one of these buttons. Another thing I want to point out is that in any given block, you have the ability to change the title or the header of that block. So that would be if you click on the action button right below the header. And this will also get into the header. But there's also the ability to hide the entire unit. So for example, if I click on that little eyeball right there, that entire block and the resources within it will not be something that your users or your students can see. So it's a fast way to hide an entire block. I'm going to unhide that. And then if you want to highlight a block as a current topic so that students know what topic of study you are on at this given moment in time, that is the purpose of this little light bulb. So I'm going to take that off as well. So those are some block tools that you have the ability to use. So those are your main editing tools. You might play with those a little bit on your page just to see that you're comfortable using them, or you might come back to this after you get more content on your page.